Relationships can be fickle. Sometimes the person you like is involved with someone else. Sometimes your parents may not approve of the person you want to marry for one reason or another. And many times, especially in 18th century England, you were put into a marriage that you may not have wanted because the person your parents wanted you to marry would provide for you or give them some kind of status. In Jane Austen's novel, Sense and Sensibility, these topics and more are discussed as you read about different relationships that arise in this society. The novel focuses on two sisters, Marianne and Eleanor Dashwood. And while they are not desperate to find love, they both have different views about love and the kinds of men that they want to be with. Jane Austen's novels tend to critique the marriage norms of the 18th century, especially when it comes to how women are supposed to behave and how they are supposed to marry. She was very much a believer in having a say in who you want to marry, and is one of the many reasons why she is still one of the most distinguished writers in history. The novel itself was written incredibly well, and the funniest thing is that it translates so well to what a modern-day soap opera is. The way that Jane Austen writes these altercations between certain characters and the comings and goings of other characters and how some are very kind of surprising, others are kind of more predictable. It reads so much like a modern-day soap opera you would see on ABC, NBC, or CBS. It made it so much more enjoyable from beginning to end because it had that kind of romantic but very kind of angry kind of feel to it because of all of the love, the loss, the deceit, all of the truth that comes out with these different relationships. It was incredibly enjoyable, and I cannot believe how much that this novel relates to today's society since it was written nearly 300 years ago. And not only that, but Jane Austen also incorporated this very familial kind of feel throughout the book. The relationship that goes on between the sisters Marianne and Eleanor is a very kind of dynamic relationship. And when you get towards the end of the novel, it very much resembles something that is in the Disney movie Frozen. This feeling of your sister is sometimes your best friend and is the only love in your life you need is very much shown throughout the entire novel, but more specifically towards the end due to certain events that happen. And it's incredibly heartwarming to see that family is still a very big part of people's lives and is still a thing that is around today. However, due to its age, it is incredibly difficult to read if you are not a person who has read any kind of classic literature before. The language is very indicative of the time period, so for casual readers who do not read classic English literature very often, this is a novel that will be very hard to read and to absorb the information. For people like myself who are more accustomed to classic English literature, this is a novel that I still think is very much enjoyable and is definitely a must-read if you are a fan of classic novels. This novel had two different kinds of characters. There were the very colorful, well-rounded characters, and then there were some that were very flat that had very little emotion behind them. But it was because Jane Austen put these two types of characters together that made the relationships more dynamic and made the relationships more cohesive. For instance, there's the difference between Eleanor and Marianne Dashwood. Eleanor is a very calm, collected person. She's very calculated and is very set in her ways. She does not let her emotions get the best of her in any single way. This is very much offset by her sister Marianne, who is very bright, very colorful, and is very much a emotion-driven person. She wears her heart on her sleeve for everyone to see, and it gets her into trouble throughout much of the novel. But because Jane Austen was able to offset these two characters from each other, it made the relationship much more stronger, and it made it more dynamic and enjoyable to read to see the differences between these two women. Overall, this is just one testament to Jane Austen's talent and ability to be able to speak out against societal norms of her time and be able to talk about relationships and familial relationships and make it still apply to today. It is no wonder that this is one of the most famous novels of Jane Austen and that it's still able to reach the minds and hearts of readers nearly 300 years later. So that's going to do it for this book review of Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I hope you guys enjoy this new kind of setup I'm trying to do. It's very much more scripted and more driven by my thoughts as opposed to me just rambling. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. The next book I will be reading is another Jane Austen novel, and it is going to be the novel Emma, so hopefully you guys will stick with me with Jane Austen for a while. I'm going to basically be reading her next 2 books that were in this collection. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye, guys!